6 weeks ago, my life changed in a way I never anticipated. And it all started with conversation I overheard. I'm a 34-year-old chef, and for the last 4 years, I had been in a relationship with Julie, a 32-year-old woman who works in pharmaceutical sales. We had been engaged and had plans for an October wedding. She's incredibly beautiful, and I'm not exactly the kind of guy most people expect her to end up with. I'm big with scars on my arms from working in the kitchen, a broken nose, and thinning hair. But I didn't mind. I was happy with Julie, or so I thought. Julie and I lived together in a renovated brownstone apartment in Chicago. I've always been the kind of guy who's in the kitchen more than at home, so it wasn't unusual that I didn't notice the oddities of the old apartment's air vent system. But everything changed when I got sick with the flu. I spent 3 days quarantined in our bedroom, while Julie worked from home. On the third day, as I lay in bed trying to get some rest, I heard Julie's voice and the voices of her friends Tara and Jordan through the vent. They were chatting casually, and I wasn't initially paying attention. But when the conversation turned to relationships, things took a dark turn. Julie, without realizing I could hear, was talking about our relationship. She casually admitted to her friends that she needed to be drunk to sleep with me. She said I wasn't Brad Pitt material, and even compared me to fast food, something you settle for when you can't have something better. At that moment, everything changed for me. The pieces clicked into place. The hesitation about setting a wedding date, the way she avoided posting pictures of us on social media, and her tendency to drink before being intimate. All of it suddenly made sense. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and crushed. That night, when Julie came to check on me, I pretended to be asleep. I couldn't look at her without hearing her words echo in my mind. The next morning, I took action. I began by checking our lease. Luckily, it was in my name. I then called the bank and canceled our joint credit card, effectively cutting off our financial ties. I reached out to her mother, Diane, and asked to meet her privately. I explained everything I had overheard verbatim, without embellishment. Diane's reaction was one of disbelief and anger. She told me she had raised Julie to be better than this, and that if Julie had said those things, she was both cruel and foolish. I told her I was ending the engagement and handed her the ring to pass back to Julie. I then made sure to leave a copy of the conversation on a USB drive in our kitchen, along with a note explaining that I was leaving and why. I packed up my things, took my personal items and expensive kitchen tools, and left. I made sure to withdraw my portion of our joint savings account, leaving her money untouched. I didn't want to hurt her any further, but I also didn't want to be in a relationship where I was nothing more than someone to settle for. Julie tried to reach out after I left, creating multiple new email accounts, but I knew there was nothing left to say. I had heard everything I needed to hear. I heard everything about the engagement being over, and by the time I left, there was no confrontation, no chance for her to spin things or convince me that I misunderstood. It felt like a clean break, just a bandage being ripped off. I checked into an extended stay hotel, turned off my phone, and when I finally turned it back on after 24 hours, I saw 47 missed calls, 31 texts, and 19 voicemails from Julie, her friends, and even a few from Diane keeping me updated on the fallout. The messages followed a predictable pattern. At first, they were confused. "Where are you? What's going on?" Then came the shock. "You recorded us." That's an invasion of privacy. Next, there was denial. I didn't mean any of that. It was just girl talk followed by anger. "You're overreacting. This is insane." After that came bargaining. "Please come home. We need to talk about this." More anger. "Fine. Leave then. You're proving I dodged a bullet." Then back to bargaining. "Baby, please. I miss you." It was stupid drunk talk. When I didn't respond, the email started. She created new addresses to get through, and I blocked each one. Over the next week, I counted 14 different Gmail and Yahoo accounts with subject lines ranging from "Please read this to you, owe me a conversation," to "I can explain everything." I never opened a single one. 2 weeks after I left, I had settled into a small but comfortable apartment near the restaurant. I told my staff a simplified version of events. The engagement was over. I needed space, and they were surprisingly supportive. It turned out that several of them had never liked Julie, but hadn't said anything before because they didn't want to cause trouble. My pastry chef even confided, "You should be grateful she was slumming with a guy who works with his hands." That stung, but it also confirmed that I had made the right decision. Then came the mutual friends, the flying monkeys, reaching out to check on me, but really try to convince me to talk to Julie. Her sister called to tell me I was being unfair by not giving her a chance to explain. Even her mother, who had initially been on my side, suggested that maybe a conversation would bring closure. I turned down every attempt at mediation. What was there to discuss? How she found me repulsive. How she saw me as a consolation prize. How she'd rather be drunk than intimate with me. Some things can't be unlearned. The most bizarre attempt at reconciliation came from Jordan, the same Jordan who had participated in mocking me. She showed up at the restaurant during service, demanding to speak to me. When I refused to leave the kitchen, she caused a scene in the dining room, shouting that I was punishing Julie for venting to her friends. The manager had her removed, and I later found out she had been drinking before she arrived. Guilt does strange things to people. Through all this, I maintained radio silence with Julie. It wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about self-preservation. Each time I thought about responding, I remembered her laughter as she compared it to fast food, and my resolve hardened. A month in, things took an unexpected turn. A food critic from a major publication dined at the restaurant incognito and wrote a glowing review specifically praising the intensity of the kitchen and my cooking. Reservations doubled overnight, and the owner offered me a partnership in the business. In the middle of this professional high, Julie made her most desperate attempt yet. She sent a letter to the restaurant knowing I couldn't block physical mail. Inside was a thumb drive and a handwritten note. Two can play at the recording game. The file contained a recording of a conversation between me and Jake, my sous chef. 2 years ago, we were discussing relationships, and I heard myself admit that Julie was out of my league and wondering what someone like her was doing with someone like me. If she thought this would justify her comments, it failed spectacularly. There's a world of difference between privately acknowledging an insecurity to a friend and cruelly mocking your partner behind their back. One shows self-awareness. The other reveals contempt. I didn't respond to the letter, but it did prompt me to do something I'd been avoiding. I looked at her Instagram. She'd been posting about our breakup, quoting songs about regret, sharing black and white selfies with captions about forgiveness. The performative sadness was almost comical given what I knew, but her most recent post gave me pause. A screenshot of a charity donation to an organization that provides reconstructive surgery to burn victims with the caption, "Learning and growing. Some lessons come at a high price." Was this a genuine step toward becoming a better person, or just another manipulation? I decided it didn't matter. Her growth journey was no longer my concern. 6 weeks after the breakup, I received an email from Diane. Unlike her daughter, Diane had respected my boundaries and hadn't reached out until now. The message was brief. Marcus. I returned home from visiting my sister to find Julie had moved back in with me. She's starting therapy next week. I'm not telling you this to change your mind. What's done is done, but I thought you should know. She seems to finally understand the magnitude of her actions. Take care of yourself. You deserve better. I appreciated Diane's update, but it didn't change anything. I wasn't interested in Julie's redemption arc. I was focused on my own story now. The unexpected epilogue to all of this without the constant undercurrent of feeling like someone's consolation prize. I'd become more confident. I started working out again, not to become more attractive to anyone else, but because it feels good to be strong. During 14-hour shift in the kitchen, I reconnected with friends I'd neglected. I'm sleeping better than I have in years. Last week, one of our regular customers asked why the food had leveled up recently. I gave her a line about seasonal ingredients, but the truth is simpler. I'm cooking without the weight of knowing my fiancée compares me to fast food. Sometimes I wonder if I should have confronted Julie directly instead of leaving silently. Maybe, but I don't regret handling it the way I did. Clean, precise, like a perfect knife cut. She's still creating new email addresses, though. The most recent subject line was, "It's been 6 weeks. Can we please talk like adults? No, we can't. Adults don't need to get drunk to tolerate physical intimacy with their partners. Adults don't mockingly compare their fiancés to fast food. Adults recognize that some mistakes can't be undone with apologies or charitable donations. There's an expression we use in the kitchen. You can't unburn the sauce. You have to throw it out and start fresh. That's exactly what I did with my life. And for the first time in years, I'm genuinely hungry for what comes next.